各位觀眾你哋好，我係文世昌。我而家呢個環境咧就係一個好嘈嘅環境嚇，係我哋農曆新年喺呢個 CNE 嘅慶祝我哋嘅猴年嘅一個環境。咁我哋今日咧就好高興咧請到一班年青人咧，就嚟到同我哋一齊傾下關於呢個農曆新年啊，作為一個中國人嘅大日子啦，同埋咧喺呢啲即係環境長大嘅年青人，佢哋點樣睇自己咧？佢哋覺得自己係加拿大人啦，定係中國人啦，定係海外華人咧？咁今日我哋咧就同我哋大家一齊分享下呢個經驗。首先我或者同大家介紹下今日出席嘅幾位嘉賓。高偉京教授咧就係多倫多大學嘅教授。Nico 咧就係我哋呢個加拿大一個海外使團嘅突破計劃，佢接觸好多年青人，佢同嗰啲年青人咧就係即係差唔多生活一齊。咁今日咧，而家大家分享下佢點同年青人睇呢個問題。咁啊，譚潤娣咧，大家都好認識咧，就係佢亦都有好多同呢啲即係族裔嘅背景嘅人咧，大家分享佢哋嘅經驗啊，同埋分析佢哋嘅即係一啲人嘅背景啊咁樣。今日我好高興佢哋同佢哋三位同我哋咧，大家分析一下呢班年青人佢哋嘅經驗。Cherry Wu 咧就係喺呢度出世嘅，喺呢度大嘅，同埋佢有本書叫做《第一粒波》。咁呢本書咧就好快咧成為一個即係主流社會嘅一個大嘅舞台製作，一個戲劇。今日我哋會好高興請佢嚟同我哋傾下關於佢自己喺呢個細嘅城市或者細嘅灘咧，我哋叫埠仔一個華人長大嘅一個經歷。咁今日我哋亦都好希望咧能夠同大家喺唔同背景嘅年青人一齊分享。咁跟住咧就係呢份 Jasmine 雜誌咧，一位負責編輯嘅人咧係 Jack Green， 佢亦都同Terry 嘅經驗有嗰個地方相似，就係嗰度出世嘅。咁佢而家咧係一個好成功嘅女性啊！咁佢點樣克服呢啲咁嘅困難咧？咁啊，我相信亦都可以同大家一齊分享下嘅。Jasmine Jack Green。咁啊，跟住咧有一位咧就係香港嘅，或者你起身同我哋講講，即係你個名係咩？Andy 啦 ，Andy 咧就同我哋咧可以傾下，佢咧就作為一個香港一個留學生嗱，佢可以講話咧就15歲嚟喺呢度噶啦，咁而家咧就讀緊大學，咁佢亦都有唔同嘅經驗，佢同阿可能咧好唔同，因為呢個咧出世咧就係即係同埋家人一齊移民，咁佢嘅經歷係點樣咧？我哋大家聽下我講。咁跟住咧我哋你講下我哋係。Kitty Kitty 咧都同Andy 有啲地方相似，就係佢咧10歲就嚟咗呢度噶啦，咁所以14歲啊，14歲嚟呢度，咁我哋睇下隔離呢位咧，佢真係10歲嚟咗㗎，佢喺度讀小學嘅，咁讀小學讀中學讀大學，甚至喺呢10歲喺度做嘢，咁佢嘅經驗有咩唔同咧？咁樣呢位咧就係Andy 同埋Kitty 咧。三位咧都係嚟自香港嘅，咁佢哋嘅經驗咧可能有啲地方同阿 Tony 同埋阿 Jack 喺度出世唔同嘅，咁我哋今日嘅時間咧就係主要係時間，我希望咧能夠盡量由佢哋去講佢哋嘅經歷啊，咁所以我哋或者呢個時間我先講下。
係，冇錯。其實我自己嚟咗 Toronto 就都8年㗎啦。咁但係如果你問我自己係一個 Chinese 一個 Canadian 咧，我覺得喺中間有少夾雜咯嚇，因為我好明顯我係一個黃皮膚嘅人啦。咁但係因為我都係香港過嚟啦，香港其實都係一個幾 multicultural 嘅城市嚟㗎。咁細個都會受到譬如英國啊或者好多西方社會嘅思想嘅塑造咁樣啦，咁所以我覺得我只係一半一半咁樣咯。你覺得自己係咪接受自己係一個加拿大人？我覺得我係都係一半一半，我覺得我都係偏向比較 Chinese 多啲嘅。係。咁日子你自己覺得你同埋你家人裏邊咧，係咪覺得同其他嘅即係嚟到呢度同你有啲唔同？我比較 Chinese， 因為我屋企都有擺全盒啊， 連揮春咁樣咯嚇。我都有㗎。因為喺呢度都讀咗一段時間嘅書啦，咁自己喺課本上面都有多英文嘅出現咁樣，咁其實個難度唔會太大咯嚇。
差唔多時間嚟呢
度。係啊，14歲。一半一半嘅，嗰陣時嘅學校嘅population 咧就係一半咧就係中國人多，少部分先至係本土嘅先至係本土嘅白人，然之後有絕大部分咧都係喺巴基斯坦嚟嘅移民嚟嘅。係唔會嘅，因為嗰陣時嗰個 population 咧係唔係好 mix 啊？中國人咧係自然自己係會同自己喺埋落埋一個小嘅圈子嘅。咁我嗰陣時我覺得嚟到，既然我嚟咗啦，我嗰陣時係讀 grade 9嘅。咁我覺得我應該咧係要喺呢度係學多啲英文。咁但係自己中國人同中國人講英文咧，人哋會覺得你扮嘢嘅係咪？所以我嗰陣時係喺 ESL 班嗰陣時咧，就係專登係同啲巴基斯坦嘅朋友啊一齊溝通啊，咁可以交流下，同埋唯一一樣可以係 exchange 好嘅 language 嗰個言語咧就係英文，都逼到自己講英文咯。
加拿大嘅人有咩唔同咧？有冇覺得你自己即係除咗英文同佢哋即係唔能夠話讀已經開始嘅時候你會咁好，即係講得咁好之外咧，你覺得自己有冇一個即係身份上嘅問題？即係話你到而家今日為止，你自己當你係人多啲，但係講人多啲。
到而家我嚟咗10年啦，我覺得係我仍然係中國人嚟嘅。我亦都好 open 咁樣去融入呢個加拿大嘅社會。但係有啲生活習慣，譬如我自己嘅即係喺屋企嘅傳統啊，食嘅嘢啊，出去嘅 entertainment 啊，完全咧都係同有好多即係加拿大本土嘅後生仔咧係有啲唔同咯。
你嚟咗嘅時間就仲有啲人啊？係啊。即係你係好細個嚟嘅。
10歲到咯。10歲到，
咁你有冇即係要讀啲即係話？英文嘅特別嘅班啊，
嗰陣時都要讀 ESL， 係啊。
咁嚟到 ESL 嘅時候，你覺得先生對你哋同埋其他啲唔係 ESL 嘅學生有冇分別㗎？
如果係淨係讀 ESL 嗰個班嚟講咧，咁其實先生都好關懷我哋嘅，因為我哋全部人都係中國人啊，或者係啲英文係第二語言嘅學生，咁佢都會即係好適應我哋啊，或者好關懷我哋咯。咁但係你話譬如去到一個普通嘅，譬如上唔係英文嘅堂嘅時候，話數學堂啊，或者係法語堂嘅時候，因為佢都要顧到同其他嘅族裔或者係即係主流社會嘅人士都要一齊咁成長噶嘛，咁所以佢可以俾到我哋嘅幫助就會少啲咯，即係佢對比之下會係。
即係一路讀上去，讀中學讀大學，咁到個語言對你嚟講已經冇困難㗎啦。你同嗰啲加拿大嘅習慣啊咁樣，
其實都會有嘅，因為即係始終都係我喺屋企嘅文化都係比較中國性啲嘅，咁所以有陣時佢哋講嘅，佢哋對有用好多 slang 嘅語言啊咁樣係會有分別嘅咯，咁可能佢哋用嗰個方面係會冇佢哋咁好咯。
Okay.
Can you suggest yourself as a banana boy? You have written a book called Banana Boy.
Sure.
What do you mean by banana boy?
All right. Well,
Chinese outside and Canadian inside, something like that.
Yeah.
Inside and
well, the term banana is slang. It's almost a derogatory slang for someone who's yellow on the outside, white on the inside. So someone who's born in Canada, but you're Asian on the outside, you're Chinese, right? And overall, you don't belong to either group. You're neither really Canadian nor are you Chinese.
Belonging to the neither?
Yeah, right now I'm a writer.
You're neither Chinese nor Canadian?
Yeah, when I was younger, I had a lot of fairly negative experiences with my identity, a lot of experiences with racism, and from both sides, actually, from both the Chinese side and the Canadian side. So
Who are you?
I'm nobody. Yeah, I mean, I'm just, I think that's the main thing, right? Like, you can't really identify yourself as Chinese or as Canadian or even Chinese-Canadian. You're just yourself, you're who you are, you do what you do, and you like what you like.
Jasmine.
Yes.
Are you a banana girl or banana boy or whatever you like?
Yeah, I guess I'm a banana girl. I was born in Canada. I barely speak Chinese, although I understand most of it. My parents speak Chinese at home, but I answer in English. Jasmine is the first magazine for Asian Canadian women. It is all in English because I think a lot of people do read and speak in English.
Yeah, can I ask you a few more questions?
Sure.
You say that you are born here.
I was.
And you are raised as a Chinese kid, or you are raised by your parents who speak neither English nor Chinese?
They speak both.
They speak both.
Yes.
So you're fortunate, in a sense, yeah?
I guess.
Yeah, because Terry's parents speak only Chinese. No, they speak both.
Yeah.
So you are already third generation, or the second generation. Second generation, and you are the...
I guess first, because my parents came over from Asia in the 70s, so I guess I'd be the first generation.
So do you have some other experience shared by Terry? That he said that he has nobody, and what are you? You are somebody, yeah? You must be somebody, because it's not... It must be a very important sort of contribution for such a magazine, yeah?
Yeah, I think, I try to take the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So rather than being nobody, I guess I'm some of everybody.
How can you be take the best of both worlds? In what way?
Well, for a long time, I never hung out with Asian people. All my friends were not Asian. It wasn't really till I started working on Jasmine that I came into greater contact with a lot of other Asian women. So I wasn't really into the culture. I don't know much about Hong Kong or who's popular in Hong Kong culture and that sort of thing.
So do you think that the reason why you do not hang around with Chinese or Asians, is it an asset or is it a baggage?
I wish I had hung out with more Asians when I was in high school. I feel like I missed out on a lot of relationships that I could have had much earlier in my life. I went to a high school that was very multicultural, and I didn't choose my friends based on whether they were Asian or not, but I feel like I should have known more Asians than I did.
So you always regard yourself a Canadian, 100%
Yes.
Canadian? 100% Canadian, without any hindrance at all by your visible face?
Well, I have no problem with the label Asian Canadian. I think it encompasses everything.
So you are very positive. And Terry, you are more negative, yeah? In what way you are trying to share your experience with Jacqueline, yeah?
Well, I think as you get older, things change about your situation. And, like by writing something like Banana Boys, I really dealt with a lot of my negative issues, like in the past. But, as things kind of change over time, you become more comfortable with yourself. And even though I consider myself neither Chinese or Canadian, it's not exactly right to say you're nobody. You're just yourself. Basically, you have to have confidence in yourself. You have to follow your own passions and your own ideals. And you can't let anybody tell you, basically, oh, you're not Chinese, or oh, you're whitewashed, or oh, you're just a banana boy. It's really up to you to basically define yourself.
Can you tell us some incidents, how you come and how you become uncomfortable? If you are uncomfortable before, are you more comfortable now?
I think there's always, as time goes on, you become a lot more comfortable. But there's always going to be things in Canadian society, for example, that pretty much remind you that you don't really belong here, whether it's a random sort of a piece of racism that's hurled on at you, like on the street, or going on TV or movies and only seeing stereotypical Asians, Asians who, cook or deliver food or just kung fu artists or something like that, or even no Asians at all, like a good example would be a show like ER, it's in a hospital. There are hardly any Asian doctors there, and that's just kind of ridiculous, right?
Well, you don't need to have Asian doctors in every show, do you?
No, but it's more realistic to actually have a lot of doctors. I know my mom wanted me to be a doctor, so,
Okay, let's try to go to the earlier generation. 譚潤弟，我想問下你，但係聽完嗰兩班人咧，咁你覺得 即係你嘅反應會點咧？第一個反應會點咧？即係嗱，一班人咧就嚟自香港嘅，呢兩位咧就喺度出世嘅，咁你又亦都接觸過其他人，你覺得佢呢班人有冇代表性啊？
哦，咁佢哋每一個人都有相當嘅代表性嘅，但係佢亦都即係好似 Terry 咁講啦嚇，其實最緊要都係點樣可以建立自己嘅對自己嘅自信心。咁當然因為加拿大移民社會咧，有好多時咧父母嗰一代嚟加拿大嗰陣時咧，已經其實有喺呢個文化嗰方面咧有相當嘅壓力啦。咁佢突然間咧，亦都對自己嘅所謂中國人背景咧係敏感咗好多嘅。咁變咗佢哋對佢哋細路仔成長嘅過程嗰陣咧，期望係好大嘅。咁變咗好可能喺嗰方面咧，就同呢個細路仔，即係喺加拿大出世嘅細路仔咧，就好容易有一個代溝喺度。咁如果家長即係做父母嘅咧，譬如喺加拿大嘅做嘢經驗唔係好好好多辛苦嘅地方，但係細路仔學校讀書就淨係已經即係同嗰個父母嗰個經驗咧隔離得好犀利嘅。咁如果嗰度咧，即係喺代溝嚟講咧，係一個我哋可能即係華人社會咧喺呢方面唔係話好多會即係照顧到，即係等到呢個喺呢度出世嘅細路仔同埋移民嚟嘅父母咧係多啲溝通咯。但係有一樣問題即係咁啊，即係我哋所謂文化嘅問題啦。因為加拿大個社會同美國唔同啦嚇。加拿大成日都話我哋其實係好民主㗎，我哋唔會有呢個種族歧視㗎。其實就唔係，好似 Terry 話齋啦嚇，佢喺度出世，就算佢唔想好似所有喺呢度出世嘅其他白人細路仔咁嚇，人哋都唔會當佢係，因為佢係所謂有即係有色嘅人種咁嚇。咁即係話咧，其實喺呢度出世嘅加拿大人華人都好啦，其實應該喺咧種族歧視嗰度都要加啲功夫落去睇一睇，唔係話表面化啦。表面化過都話係啊，我哋冇種族歧視㗎，我哋唔係好似美國咁樣嘅。其實就唔係，譬如學校又好啦，你做嘢嘅地方都好啦，種族係一個好大嘅問題嚟嘅。Okay. So I was just saying very briefly that there is this generation gap that's easily developed in terms of the parents' generation because they came from, say, China or Hong Kong, and once they get here, culturally, actually, there's a long process for them to get acculturated. So they get very sensitized as to how much of Chinese culture they have to hold on to maintain their own identity as Chinese, right? So they also, in that sense, develop a really unrealistic expectation on the younger generation, and that just exacerbates the problem of the general, generational conflict. The other thing is, Canada always prides itself as a democracy, that we don't have any racism issues here, unlike the Americans, which is not true, right? So it's important for us to recognize that even though on the surface things look okay, but in fact, in schools, in workplaces, in the court system, in the policing system, there are a lot of issues of racism, so we shouldn't ignore it.
Can you respond? Can you respond to Tam?
I agree. I mean,
do you agree what she said?
We pride ourselves as Canadians on being fairly racism-free, but I encounter racism at least once a week downtown Toronto. It's not surprising at all.
Do you agree that this kind of thing can change with time?
I hope so. I hope with more magazines like this and more books like Terry's that people will see more views and there'll be more voices, and that sort of racist incident will become less and less acceptable.
Terry, do you agree that one day this kind of sort of a harmonious assimilation can take place? And is it a good thing or bad thing?
Well, I don't think anything will ever be perfect. Like you always watch TV shows like Star Trek on TV where everybody's all happy and everybody cooperates and stuff. Yeah, that's just fiction, right? That's science fiction. I think as society goes on, there will be newer and different things that basically develop for better or for worse. So we will solve like a lot of our problems, but maybe newer ones will come up and we're just going to have to tackle them all together. We're not alone. It's important to champion Asian and Asian Canadian causes, but the important thing is to understand that we're all in it together.
Respond to what? Oh, I see. I guess what they are saying, and also what the other three youths are saying, I think have addressed a quite interesting issue, because I guess the 1.5 generation, we usually call those who came here in their early life, and or the immigrants. Of course, they don't have much the identity issues, and in the literature always suggested that how they can use the community resources to help them to achieve socioeconomically. So that is, I guess, is kind of reflect from what they said, how they use the community resources to help them to integrate and to achieve. As for those who born here, I guess in the past, the literature has suggested that Asian or visible minority, they don't have much choice to choose their identity because of the skin color. But in recent years, research suggested that not necessarily the case, because even among the Asians, they can have a choice to choose how much they want to affiliate to their own community. Some of them, they don't want to affiliate at all. Some of them, they find quite all right to affiliate with their own community. So in terms of their ethnic identity, we also see that they have a choice of how much they want to integrate with the community. So I guess it's also reflect from Jacqueline and what Terry said.
我哋咧就聽過其他人講過佢哋嘅經驗，亦都聽過兩位嘉賓啦。我係想聽下 Nico， 如果俾你作為一個即係分析咗我哋咁多人講過嘅嘢，俾你講最後嘅2分鐘，你會點樣講咧？
我自己就會覺得而家係一個機會啊，因為咧就當我哋睇見咁多唔同嘅華裔年輕人喺度，而且喺呢個城市，其實頭先阿 Tam 講，即係點樣我哋可以 work out 嗰個大家嗰個唔同嘅種族，我覺得 Chinese 咧係一個好好嘅機會去 work out 呢樣嘢。個 keywords 咧就係個 respect 啊，即係如果我哋去 respect 我哋，如果我哋成日將我哋嗰啲唔同嘅地方咧一直提升話我哋好唔同好唔同，咁其實係做唔到一啲乜嘢嘢。如果你有一個和諧咧，係應該係將我哋同嘅地方咧係更加提升佢，咁讓到其他嘅族裔咧都睇到啊，原來我哋咧係可以 level 一個 multi-cultures。Even though within Chinese we are in multi-cultures and there is a beauty in multi-cultures. I know it is costly, but still it's worth and it is valuable for us to live together. 所以我覺得唔單止淨係 language 咯，係好多嘢係 build up 咗我哋嘅，包括我哋嘅 family， 包括我哋嘅 history， 包括我哋嘅 cultures。咁但呢個咧係我哋嘅強項嚟嘅，唔係我哋嘅弱項嚟。
好多謝 Nicole。咁佢嘅觀點咧，我相信咧亦都係一啲比較 positive 嘅觀點，即係話我哋講緊呢個族裔問題咧，其實咧係有一個選擇嘅，即係你可以留翻自己族裔嘅優點，亦都可以咧完全融入個社會。咁呢個究竟係咪呢個係一個神話咧，定係可以即係解決個問題咧？我哋休息一陣，再翻嚟同大家繼續探討呢個問題。咁你哋唔好行開咯喎，我哋好快又會再同大家繼續傾落去。拜拜。我哋喺個休息之前呢，就同大家一齊傾緊一個中國人好關心嘅問題，就係啲海外嘅華人，尤其是佢哋年輕嘅一代喺呢度成長嗰代咧，佢哋嗰個身份問題，究竟佢哋係當自己係中國人啦，係海外華人啦，定係加拿大人咧？佢哋有冇一個即係呢個兩種唔同文化喺中間做夾心人呢種咁嘅困難咧？咁我哋或者可以繼續同大家探討。It's a very interesting observation since we start our conversation. I think every one of us are bilingual and bicultural in a way. Maybe Terry does not agree. We are not bicultural, but we are bilingual at least. So we can, if you feel comfortable, we can continue our discussion in English or Chinese if you like. So we can start
English,
talking about our experiences. Whether you start as a Chinese born here, or you start as an immigrant from Hong Kong or elsewhere. Do you have any difference in perception, experience, and your final sort of critical analysis of your own identity? I can start with Terry again now. You told me that you grew up as a banana boy in a small town where you don't have too many Chinese.
Not at all.
Yeah. What does it mean? What does it mean when you grow up in a place where you have very few Chinese, so that you are not aware that you are different from anybody until you come to Toronto until you come to a big city where you have so many Chinese. Do you find any difference between the two situations?
Oh, a massive difference. I mean, where I grew up, it was really interesting because I did run into a lot of racism. I got beat up in the schoolyard quite often. It's really strange, though, because I had friends who grew up maybe 15 minutes away from me, and they didn't seem to run into any problems at all, So I guess it was kind of the luck of the draw. When you're younger, too, you don't really understand what happens, It's like, why are they teasing me? I wish I wasn't Chinese, stuff like that. And then you get a lot older because you're influenced ultimately by your experiences when you're younger, and that shapes your view in life and your politics and stuff like that. That's why I guess I feel the way I do about identity and about being Chinese or Canadian or neither. It's ultimately shaped by the experiences I've had when I was younger. And then when I did come to Toronto or go to school, I went to the University of Waterloo, and there were a lot of Asians. My first response is that, wow, there are definitely a lot of Asians. I've never run into this before. But, as time kind of went on, I realized that everybody has their own story and everybody has their own experiences, and we're all just people. And it's really important to basically reach out and understand other people, just like you want people to reach out and understand you, so we can move forward, I guess, in this world.
How unique is your experience? How unique is your own experience? Are they universal among you banana boys?
I think on one level, everybody's experience is unique. No, everybody is unique, right? Everybody has their own set of experiences and context from which they basically navigate through life. On the other hand, there are a lot of people who share very common sort of type experiences. I guess that's one of the reasons why I wrote Banana Boys. I wanted to put something out there to tell other bananas, other people in my situation, look, you're not alone, there are people like you. You may think that you're alone. You may think that you're the only Chinese person out there in a sea of white faces, but it's not true. There are other people like you and with experiences similar to yours, and and we understand.
What about those people who come from Hong Kong, for example? If they set up their families here and they have new children born, are they banana boys?
I think they're banana boys in a certain way. I think it's different in the sense that I guess it's difficult to kind of get together because you're all in your own groups. And I remember when I was in high school or university, a lot of people from Hong Kong, I just couldn't really relate to them because they weren't, some of them made fun of me because I couldn't speak Cantonese and that sort of thing. But as soon as you move on, you start meeting a lot more new friends, and a lot of my friends are from Hong Kong right now, and you start understanding that they have their own experiences, and we're all in this together, basically. We are all Asian in Canada, and we all share the same experiences.
I tell you one experience before you respond. I have a son who was born in Hong Kong, educated in Hong Kong for his primary school, and then he went to England for about 5 years as a secondary school student and came here before he get into university in one of the schools here. They find that the Zhuxing, those people who do not speak Chinese, they gather together, and those from Hong Kong together in another place in the cafeteria, and those Caucasian they just gather around in different places. Is this possible even now?
It's almost natural to gravitate towards people who are similar to you, who speak the same language and like the same things. But it's important because, we're not in a vacuum. We all exist among other people. And I think it's pretty much up to us to reach out and touch other people and, find out about things and teach other people, things about yourself.
I just actually want to talk about, it's not, this whole banana phenomenon is not just a Chinese Canadian phenomenon. For the black community, for instance, they also have Canadian born blacks they call Oreo cookies, and then for the native community it's Macintosh, right? Red on the outside of white. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's part of the problem, if you want to look at it negatively, that all visible minorities who are born in Canada, because Canada sees itself as a white country, even though its policies since the late 60s and 70s basically let in a lot of visible minorities like ourselves. But I think the historical origin of this Canada being more or less a white country still persists today in the media. Certainly, that's one of the reasons why the media will not let visible minority faces.
You know, it's nothing that you can really escape in this country or in North America as a whole, like in the States. But one thing I am conscious about is that it's a lot better here than in other countries. I have friends who, for example, are in England or in Australia, for example, you know, where, you know, they're even in a lot of ways less flexible than your average Canadian.
Yeah.
So as much as there is a lot of things in this country that needs to be changed, you know, we do have to be grateful that we are in one of the best countries in the world as far as people accepting other cultures.
Tim, can I ask you, as a parent, you have a kid raised here?
Yeah, I have two daughters who were born here, yeah. And on top of that, I didn't marry a Chinese.
Yeah.
So I have another, you know, situation that I have to deal with.
So you are multicultural in a way, multicultural. How important is the role played by a parent here for kids like Terry and other people from Hong Kong?
Well, I think in all situations, if you decide to have children, parents do have responsibilities, right? But of course, if you yourself, as I said before, depending on your situation, if you come here as an immigrant, of course, you have a lot of issues that you have to deal with yourself in terms of your own identity issues. So because I think there's a misconception that only Canadian-born Chinese have that issue. I think that actually all immigrants have that issue. Because I remember when I first came in 1970, at that time, Canada only recognized China, communist China at the time. So in a party, when somebody asked me where I was from, I said from Hong Kong. I was told, no, you're not Chinese. So because for that person, only people from China, only people from China were considered Chinese. And then Hong Kong itself, Hong Kong was a colony, and we were supposed to be totally westernized because we were, you know, we went to colonial, we underwent a colonial education system. So I was very conscious that I wasn't considered the real Chinese myself. So I actually had a bit of a shock when I first came. So I always like to tell my friends who came later, a lot of my high school friends came in the 80s when there were a lot of Chinese who came from Hong Kong. I think for them, of course, there were so many issues to deal with, the jobs, you know, in terms of, you know, the kids growing up, going to school and all that. I think a lot of times they just didn't even have the time or the attention to kind of reflect on what kind of difficulty they went through themselves. And that makes the situation very difficult.
You know, I think you're absolutely right in the sense that everybody who does happen to be an immigrant in this country does have their own issues. And, you know, things do change. I mean, I've noticed that younger Asians, younger bananas who are born here, like 20-somethings, there are obviously a lot more of them, you know, and, you know, I see them hanging out with each other and laughing and living and loving and stuff like that, and I really envy them. I'm really quite jealous because, you know, I wish I had my own banana group to grow up with. But, you know, they have a lot more resources, basically, to tap on to be a lot more comfortable. And it's the same sort of thing, you know, like I see a lot of groups of Hong Kong Chinese, for example, looking at other Chinese groups, like Taiwanese or people from Red China. And, you know, they're feeling like a lot of the things that I felt before, you know, there's a larger wave and a newer wave of people with a bigger voice and, you know, that sort of thing. Like I said, everything changes.
Okay, I know that Jacqueline and Terry, you are both born here. So you don't have the problem of cultural identity here.
I disagree. Sorry, I disagree with that. I think I struggled also. I didn't feel like I was part of the Asian community, and yet everyone at school saw me as that Chinese girl. You know, so I look Asian, but I don't really know much about Asian culture, and I felt like I didn't really belong in other places.
I think that the main difference between you and the other teenagers or a young man, the only big difference is you think in English. You use English in your medium, and you talk in English without any sort of any hindrance at all.
Right.
But they may have them. So that's the main difference. Do you think so? Or you are just 100% English, and at the same time you are assimilated together with the core values of the society. So when you go out to work, you work with different people.
Yes.
And you don't have any problem at all with the visible yellow face.
No, I've spoken and written and listened in English my whole life. I did go to Chinese school for 8 years, but none of it stuck.
So do you have an urge to learn some Chinese now?
If someone taught me Cantonese, I would learn. But
I'll teach you Cantonese. You teach me English, okay?
Okay.
Okay, let me try to the other three young men and young women. Do you think in Chinese now, or you think in English? Or you dream in English, or your dream boy is in English?
I still think in Chinese values, but when I express, I can use both Chinese and English. I guess that is one of the opportunity and the advantage that we have that I'm precious on.
So do you think that as a person working in Toronto now, your language ability, more than just English, is an asset or sometimes even as a disadvantage?
Oh, it's definitely an asset, especially when we have so many Chinese immigrants coming either from Hong Kong, Taiwan, or many different places. Actually, having Chinese language is one of the assets that they're looking for on your resume.
Okay, let's try Kitty.
Yeah.
Do you think in English or you think in Chinese now, or you are both? Huh?
A little bit of both.
Yeah. In what way?
In what ways? I dream about things in Chinese though.
You dream about things in Chinese. That means instinctually you are more Chinese than Canadian, huh?
I would say a lot of my friends are CBC background, and they're really happy that I'm in their group.
Yeah.
It's kind of in between. I'm caught in between because my FOBI friends, which means the ones from Hong Kong would think that, hey, you're more of a CBCN than us, because when I go to karaoke, I don't drink like them. I sing Cantonese songs, but I sing old Cantonese songs. I don't follow the trend. But when I go to the CBC crowd, they would think that I'm more of a Hong Kong pop culture side. So I think that what I have right now is the best of the two ends because I'm in the middle.
So you're just like a fish that can swim in both waters, huh?
Yeah.
Are you okay now? 100% okay as a Canadian. Yeah. Okay, let's go to Andy. I want to know whether your early experience as a young kid from Hong Kong, do you encounter difficulties in language? On how can you overcome this? And do you still have problems, say when you are going to an interview or something like that? Do they regard you as not as good as the other Canadians here?
Actually, when I first come to Canada, I also have a racism problem. Like Kitty and Diana, I still have to go to the so-called ESL class, and I also go to the regular English class. And the education system is like be fair to everybody, right? And so the professor basically has to let everybody to speak out. And it's actually a nightmare for me to go to English class, because when I study, when I try to read the paragraph, that's obviously I got a Chinese accent and just a lot of breaks in between, right? And the other kids just laugh at me, like insult, like what are you doing? You don't understand English. Get out of here, like something like that. It makes me it gives me a big pressure, like. And since my school is actually got 60% of the Chinese Asia in school, and that's the reason why in my high school stage, I just stay in my comfort zone, like stick with the peers, and I get along well. And then I'll start think, why I have to cross if I can still survive in the high school. Then I actually go to the other stage in university, and I start thinking it's not going to work. After I got a message from my family, we're not going back to Hong Kong. We have to, for my future career, I have to stay in Canada. So I guess I can only stick in the Asia areas, like only get along with the Hong Kong people, only Chinese people. I have to cross. I have to get along with the Western. Then I have to. That's the turning point why I have to. Why I start contact with the other ethnic groups. And I try to speak more English, and I guess a sense of urgency. Like, if I have to survive, I have to cross.
Do you agree with this kind of perception that most Canadian parents here and the Canadian sort of Chinese Canadian parents, they have different attitudes to the younger generation? When they want to say to ask advice from their parents, They like them to get into professions, lawyers, computers men, or engineers, and not like people, Terry or Jasmine. They move on something more creative, more different from their stereotyping. Is that a true observation? So many Chinese parents want their say they don't even encourage intermix with other girls or boys from the other races. They want, for example, can you tell me whether your parents want you to marry a Chinese girl or a?
Actually, not in my situation, because my parents give me a wide range of freedom. Like I can choose whatever I like. So I'm not actually on the art and graphic design field. But for my friends, I got so much ideas generated, and their families, they still prefer their being a doctor, an engineer, architecture. Like that's I think the parents they believe that's a guaranteed success. Guaranteed success in all countries, not only in Canada. But
this is typical, even in Hong Kong.
Right.
So it doesn't matter whether you're in Canada or in Chinese or in America.
Right.
This is universal.
Yeah, they think again that's a guarantee. Like they can have a better future. Like they don't have to worry about that.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. You have come across many different variety of Chinese when you're in a day-to-day encounter with them. Can you summarize some of the different observations you can?
I enjoy very much the discussion just right now, and I think we need to go out of certain kinds of stereotypes, especially with stereotypes. How the expectations of our parents and young people, actually they know what to do now. They want to go out of that. And I think no matter they're born here or they're new immigrants, actually they're new generations. They have their own role. They have to walk together. So I think a community of younger generations is needed so that they can share their dreams. It is okay, no matter they speak or they think in a Chinese way or in an English way, in a Western way. No, it is okay, no matter they dream in Cantonese speaking or in English speaking. But at least they know how to communicate, and at least they want to have a better mixtures and better communications in different cultures.
No, the earlier on, like in the past, because our parents, or the generations before us, were so concerned about making their way here, establishing themselves here, their priorities basically were survival and success, right? I think as Asians in general, it doesn't have to be Chinese, it could be Japanese or Korean, yes. They get more established here in Canada. We're more able to pursue our passions and what you call our dreams, right? There's just more of an infrastructure, a base that you can work on. I guess that's another reason why I really envy younger Asians as well, because I see so many of them and I meet so many of them, and they start off, writing or in art, or some are even dancers or athletes and stuff like that. And I guess it's just a lot easier. At the same time, I have to acknowledge the generations that came before me, basically to lay the foundations.
You're right.
In basically making sure that we're able to have a firm foothold in this society to basically do our own thing.
Right, and also I think that from what everyone discussed, it sounds that identity is a very complex issue. It's not something that how we define it, how we come to understand it. But I guess it's involved a lot of factors that may affect the formation of our identity, and it's also related to what we experienced in the past. And I think what they discussed definitely show that. And so I guess I think the discussion revealed how complex it is when we think about identity, especially identity related to Asian population.
I think it's very interesting to assimilate our experiences, like we are assimilating to the society. But I think after talking among ourselves, I think we may think about certain directions or summarize some of our views. After this little break, okay? We'll come back and then we can talk about what we think should be gather today and point to the future。我哋到今日為止，到呢個時間為止咧，我哋休息一陣咧，我哋翻嚟咧繼續我哋嘅討論啊，唔好行開啊！歡迎繼續收睇多倫多網上電視。今日我哋嘅話題咧就係我哋作為喺呢度華人咧，究竟我哋呢個咁嘅身份咧係中國人啦、華人啦、香港人啦，定係加拿大人咧？咁有好多人咧就對呢個問題咧好有興趣嘅。但係呢個問題究竟係咪一個問題咧？我哋聽咗大家即係分析咗兩節之後咧，我哋希望能呢個問題開始。咁we're now switching to the English channel. After 2 sessions, we want to come to certain conclusion, if that can be concluded. Am I Chinese or am I Canadian? And we can start with this and then come to a certain sort of a tentative conclusion, whether it's meaningful to continue discussion like this. Now we can start with Terry, I think. Okay?
All right. Well, you know, I think ultimately it really is very meaningful, basically, to find your role in society. You know, that's what identity is all about. Trying to find your role in society and being comfortable with within your own skin. Now, you know, I mean, I really appreciate it when people think about being Chinese and Canadian in a very positive sense, like Kitty, for example, you know, or Diana, you know, who says that being able to speak Chinese and English is an advantage, and that's great. You have to be positive about this sort of thing.
Well, in Canada, if you are bilingual, it's always a better chance for you to get into certain places. If you want to be a federal politician, you have to speak fluent French.
That's right.
So why not, if you want to be a successful person, you say in a big business, which have a lot of Chinese potential, so in terms of the marketing, that is an advantage to be bilingual and bicultural.
Right. You know, I mean, there are always going to be advantages, but at the same time, you know, there are always going to be disadvantages as well. And, you know, while it's important to dwell on the positive aspects of belonging to each culture and being very comfortable within two cultures, there are always going to be disadvantages as well. You know, like Tam was saying, basically, your race really does mark you in this country. There's no way around it, you know.
Yeah.
And like if you're talking about being in the federal government, how many Asians are there right now in the federal government in senior cabinet positions or as MPs or as MPPs? The answer is very, very little, right?
Yeah. So it goes back to the question of assimilation. So when an outsider gets into a place where you have so-called inner core group, for example, the Caucasians, the Americans and the English, they come to Toronto earlier than the other new immigrants. So it's a matter of cultural assimilation. But if this is only a myth, you have to be civic assimilation. Everybody should be treated equal, mentally as well as just legally. So that's a long process from cultural assimilation to civic assimilation. Civic means everybody treated equal, no discrimination, jobs open to everybody, and there is complete equity.
Actually, I want to go back to the whole issue around bicultural and bilingualism. We have to remember, though, as far as the government policies are concerned, Canadian government only recognizes English and French as truly bilingual. They don't recognize any other languages. If you're bilingual in Chinese and English, officially, you're not bilingual. That's something I found out. I was shocked, right? So in a sense, there is a government, even though they consider themselves very, you know, liberal and democratic and all that stuff, this whole issue about multicultural and bilingual has a lot of tension between these two concepts. So you have to fight all the way. I mean, it's all very easy for us to say, yeah, we want everybody to be bilingual, keep your Chinese. But you can't do that because when you go to school, the school tells you to speak English only. You have a lot of pressure to just totally forget your Chinese. So how are you going to do that, right? How are you going to make the fact that kids who come here as immigrants, that they go into the school when they want to speak Chinese, they're not going to be told, shut up, you can only speak English. You're here in Canada, don't speak any Chinese. It used to be like that. So, and how are you going to also make the Canadian-born person like Terry
to feel not ashamed of not being
Hey,
able
I'm not ashamed, okay? I'm alienated.
Right. No, you turn it around. It's wonderful.
There's a difference.
No. But it's good that you turn it around. But there is, I guess my issue is, Canada actually has a lot of pressure on immigrant kids to speak English alone. And because of that, it has a lot of psychological pressure.
Are you calling me psychologically unbalanced?
So am I. I'm in the same boat, I'm trying to tell you.
Well, I think you are quite right, both of you. We're talking about equality. It's a matter of power. The power conflict is one of the sort of analysis when you talk about ethnic relationship. It's not only assimilation from one culture to another culture. It's also whether who is making the decision.
Exactly.
If you are talking about bilingual, why French-English? Why not Chinese and English? If Chinese is getting more than if more Chinese are coming here than French, what happened to the status of Chinese? So it's a matter of still power conflict.
Oh, it's a tremendous power position because the government, Canadian Parliament decides where the money goes. If you want to speak French in the schools, there's a lot of money that goes towards French programming. But there's no money for people to want to speak Chinese or learn Chinese or other languages. That's where the power is. Where does the taxpayers' money go, right? You put money where your mouth is. So when Trudeau established the bilingual system and say that all federal employees have to speak French, that's where all the French programming money goes to. And those are the pressures on. You're supposed to speak French, not other languages. Same thing with what's called assimilation. Assimilation is a loaded word.
I think I want to ask Diana, if you have more resources to have the Chinese here to be equal with the English-speaking people, are you willing to give more resources to, say, more resources in helping the young kids getting better chance to speak English as equal as other people, or you want to get more power so that Chinese can one day become one of the official language?
I won't, because I do accept the fact that we're in Canada, where English is the primary language. So it is very critical that we learn English the best as we can to go along with our lives. But I mean, for my own experience, I will definitely encourage them to speak Cantonese as well, or speak Mandarin as well, because this is exactly where the world is leading right now. I mean, I'm more a business mind where the whole target right now is going to that way. So even though you're not learning the Chinese, but actually learning the culture itself definitely help us as well. This is what my point is. And having in Canada, having in Toronto where we are allowing multiculturalism is the best place. It's the heaven for us to actually to have this mindset, to develop our skills.
Is multiculturalism only a buzzword? Is multiculturalism only lip service? Or really you come across different cultures are treated equally now?
Of course, we're still having culturalism as one of the problems. I mean, not Canadian as well, but I mean Hindus or Indians, they are expecting the same thing as well. But I guess living in Canada, we have to go along. We have to show them we're working very hard and to build, getting ourselves into a community, not fighting for whether Chinese can be official language. I think this is not the point. I think for every Chinese to actually go in the community to serve, to build it up is the main thing.
Okay. Kiki, are you happy with your situation now, or you think the situation can be improved? Are you happy with the situation now, or can the situation be improved? Say, for example, if there is any cultural barrier, how can we get over the cultural barrier?
It depends on the person, because there's always a majority of people who just want to be in the comfort zone, as Andy was saying. They don't want to change. They just come here. They want to be in this Chinatown. I have a lot of friends who just refuse to learn English because they thought that in one day I'll just go back to Hong Kong anyway. I don't need to even embrace whatever culture that is in Canada. there is, of course, another majority, a majority of group who would like to be a Canadian but never get accepted because language barrier, lifestyle differences, any other things. These are the things that we have to take little steps. Am I happy with the situation right now? I think it's fine as it is, but of course there are room for improvement a lot of times. But it takes a step for each one of us to move on in order for the whole community to expand.
Can you give us some examples that you say that some students here, they don't regard their long-term career in Canada, and they want to go back to Hong Kong, and they don't think that learning sort of a perfect English is their target. How much is this kind of percentage? It seems to be a very it's a dangerous idea. Yeah.
I don't think I can speak on behalf of everyone because the people that I know are half and half, like CBC and the ones that are from Hong Kong as well. I would say a small majority of people, they would try their best effort to learn in English. However, if you go to Highway 7, if you go to downtown, you don't need to speak in English to survive in Toronto. So that's not a barrier, but it's a fact that they don't need to speak English to survive. And they live just as well. What I mean is it goes both ways as well. A lot of my CBC friends are more interested in Chinese culture. I think the Dragon Boat Festival or like Canadian exhibition plays for Chinese New Year, occasions like this, it's a lot of their chances to get out and learn more about the Chinese culture, their roots. And I think these are the things that Toronto, the mainstream Toronto culture is trying to embrace Chinese as well. So it goes both ways.
Do you think that the Canadians are embracing Chinese? In what way they are embracing Chinese?
Yeah, not only Chinese, there are Japanese, Korean, a lot of them as well.
They are embracing Chinese money, yeah? They're not embracing Chinese as a cultural identity.
Always the political side, financial side, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to Andy. Yeah, Andy, many people think that when they come to Canada, they want to settle down in Canada. And how come that, as Kitty said, some of your friends, they want to go back to Hong Kong and they don't think that Canada is the place they can put down roots? Is this a good thing or bad thing? Huh? If you come to a place, you have to assimilate, to learn their language, to have identity with the society and to have identity with the values of Canada, like freedom, like democracy. But people say they come from China. Are they going to back to China one day?
It really depends. Like if they are willing to cross, if they think they can survive in Canada, I think they will stay because we obviously have a better living in Canada, I guess, in terms of environmental and all the government benefits and stuff. But it really depends on the person. Like again, if they still think they cross, they just stick in their comfort zone. I guess they'll go back to China or maybe Hong Kong. And there's another factor that then maybe their family cannot get along. I mean, cannot fit, their living style cannot fit to the Canadian living style. So their whole family just go back, and if they want to stick with their family, they just go. I mean.
So do you have an identity problem now? Are you 100% Canadian, or you're treating yourself as bicultural person, or you just take it as I'm just an international person?
As I said before, I think I'm half and half, and my personal opinion, not only stick with the Chinese culture or only stick with the Canadian will survive in the future. I think in our generation we are kind of searching something in between. We are merging two culture together, and I guess we are generating something new for the future. I couldn't say the term like Chinese Canadian or whatsoever, but
we are Chinese Canadian.
It's going to be something.
We cannot deny the fact that we are Chinese Canadian.
It's going to be something for the term of that culture. I mean, it's not only Chinese and Canadian. Maybe we are generating the other culture stuff. Because I think everything is going to be globalized. Like, let's say internet. We can't deny the European culture as well. We're sort of influenced by their art, by like Da Vinci and other people. So not only Chinese culture, I think it's generating everything together.
So I want, Jacqueline, you respond. Can we regard ourselves as a global person? Can we have multiple identities? Multiple identity in the sense that I am a Canadian Chinese or Chinese Canadian. I am a Canadian, I am also a global person. I belong to the internet, I belong to the whole world. Is it possible to get across this kind of confusion?
I think actually with the growth of the internet and the fact that most young people get most of their information online, and you get your information from everywhere in the world. I don't think in the future country boundaries won't matter as much. I think we're already sharing a global culture of music and entertainment and art, and I think that influence will only grow. I did want to point out that one of the reasons we started Jasmine is because it's basically the magazine I wish that had existed when I was growing up, because I read a lot of magazines, but most of them didn't apply to me because the makeup tips didn't work on Asian faces, or there were very few, if any, Asian models. And one of the reasons I believe in Jasmine is that it celebrates and represents Asians in a way that I don't think any other magazine has done in Canada before. I would have been so happy to see an Asian model in a teen magazine when I was 15, you know? And I think that it has the potential to help a lot of Canadian-born Chinese feel appreciative of their culture and their appearance, all the things that were missing when I was younger.
So the same can apply to Banana Boy.
Yeah.
Because when, say, Terry, you have a successful book, once you launch it, and then more people can write about their own experience. I think literature is just about their own experience. It depends on whether how good or how well the book is written.
Yeah.
And once this is accepted by the mainstream, say you get a market, then more people can be Amy Tan. Amy Tan is a gold mine. Yeah.
She's definitely a gold mine. Not that good, but a gold mine anyways. But, I mean, just like Jacqueline, when I was 15, I would have loved to see a book about people like me, about the experiences like me. And, I think that's a really important point. If you don't see anything out there that meets your needs or that you really like, do it. Do it yourself. It's your responsibility. Nobody else is going to do it for you. So, if you don't like the music out there, if you don't like what you're seeing on TV or in movies and stuff like that, there are no Asian faces, or if they are, they're all stereotypical. It's pretty much up to us to take it personally and to go out there and just do it for ourselves.
Yeah. Nicole, you hear people mention the word boundary, and you are working to break down the barrier. Make people cross the boundary. How successful can it be done?
Yes, I think we are now here, young people especially, that actually we have the access to think globally and act locally. If we work out this, many boundaries can be taken out, because we have a wider sense of looking the world now. And as Jacqueline has said, the world boundary actually is breaking down, right? In terms of cultures, in terms of lifestyles, songs, everything. So if the young people here, if we come together, I think forums, literatures, things like this, if we have more space to talk, to share our ideas through writings, through a forum like this, it is helpful. And it helps a lot to break down the...
What about to cross the barrier between generations? Now we regard ourselves as Low Bang, the old pine, and these are the young people. Can we just cross the boundary between the generations?
I'm sorry to say, I think parents have to change.
Parents have to change in what way?
Because, especially for the first immigrations, as first generations. And most of the parents said that one of their choice to come to this country is I do the best for our child, but from the bottom of the heart, what is the best for our next generations? It's the questions that our parents have to answer.
The parents usually use their own values to impose on the young generation.
Yeah.
What they think may not be the same kind of thinking as the young people, but they want their mold to be stereotyped again and again.
Yeah, and many parents, they said that they compare their generations to their child, and then they said that, oh, you are so lucky. When I was at your age, I'm so tough. I was so tough to earn my living, right? So you have no way to say that you are unlucky, and then you have to work out the best. But the younger generation asks, what's the best for us? You never know. If you don't answer these questions, I don't see our parents will have an answer for that.
Yeah, I think one of the buzzwords today is globalization. So you can think globally, but you can act locally. What about, say, Eric, can you give us a sort of a final analysis of what you think about today's discussion? Is it meaningful to talk about, say, assimilation? Is it meaningful to talk about, say, power conflict? Or is it meaningful to just continue the conversation so that we can one day get a conclusion, which may not be final?
I guess there's never been. It's almost impossible to reach a conclusion, and I think that actually today we have raised a lot of very good points. Just only 2 points I would like to make. The first one is when we always talk about assimilation, integration. In fact, in recent research has told us that immigrants not necessarily integrate, or we not necessarily experience the so-called the zero-sum relationship. That is, we further integrate and we give up our own ethnic identity. We find that there is something called a transnational relationship. That is, we can integrate into the wider society. At the same time, we maintain a close contact with our ethnic community. And in fact, sometimes the ethnic members are able to use the ethnic resources to help them in the process. So ethnic resources may not necessarily be perceived as negative. And the second point I would like to make is when I listen to that discussion, it's quite interesting because they always raise the issue that a new identity is emerging, or they're creating a new identity. I think that's something quite interesting because, in fact, when we always mention about the term Asian was the term just only has been used started in the 70s because of the civil rights movement in the state, that the Asian groups decided to realize that they have to pull together and to fight for their own civil rights. So therefore, Asian as a term becomes very popular started in the 70s. So I guess it's when we think about our identity, is something always is emerging, is something that always changing and can be fluctuated. So it depends on the time.
You mentioned also the word integration. You think it's not necessary, it's not a mandatory thing to have everybody integrated into the core value of the society, or they can retain their own cultural background? Can this be one way to look at the problem, or is it a very negative way to say you can always remain your cultural identity as you are? You don't need to assimilate, you don't need to be integrated into the society as a whole.
No, I guess you still think in a framework of assimilation, because I guess it's nowadays when we think about the new immigrants or the new generation, the way they behave in the society, not necessarily fully integrate. They integrate. Well, I would say that they fully integrate into the society, but at the same time, they also fully maintain their social network within the ethnic community. So what I'm trying to say here is that we see a much more complex situation. That is, they fully integrate at the same time in both ways, in the wider society as well as the ethnic community.
我哋而家或者轉一轉個頻道啊，即係因為就嚟呢個節目咧，就可以講話到尾聲咧，我都想大家咧用好短嘅時間，用幾句嘅中文講下你覺得即係今日嗰個題目嗰個意義喺邊度咧嚇？
我覺得好嘅，永遠討論 ethnic identity 係一個好重要嘅 topic， 因為我諗每一個人都要 deal with 即係 identity 呢個 issue， 咁我諗多啲討論係好嘅。
我覺得係大家如果係 base on 一個互相欣賞嘅咧個討論啊，同埋無論係寫嘢啊或者係講嘅話，都係帶俾我哋新一代一個出路。
我覺得討論 identity 係一個好好嘅 issue 啦，因為係特別係 for 我哋呢個叫做no roots 嘅 generation 咧，
無根嘅一代，
其實一個好好去反思下究竟我哋 identity 係乜嘢，去幫助我哋喺前面條路點樣去行咯。
覺得好幸運，因為喺多倫多呢一個即係多元文化嘅社會裏面咧，我哋係可以真真正正係容納到咁多個唔同嘅文化喺度。
我覺得有呢個 topic 係好嘅，因為我哋可以令到大家認識到原來我哋真正係對緊呢一樣嘢係有重要性嘅，即係我哋就算係中國人或者 minority 都唔係俾人哋遺棄咗，咁係可以即係對我哋青年人或者好似佢哋話 no roots 一代咧係做一個提醒咯，都係。
Jacqueline, can you summarize in 20 seconds what you want to say as a final word?
I've always been comfortable being both Asian and Canadian, so and that's what Jasmine is about. It's about celebrating both. So I hope people will pick up the magazine and agree.
Carrie, keep it short.
All right. Well, yeah, okay. But I started off saying that I was nobody, meaning I was neither Canadian or Chinese. Obviously, that's not true. I think everybody is somebody, and I feel that I'm myself, basically. Being Chinese and Canadian, it will always be part of me, but it's my identity as opposed to one or the other.
Tam, you have the final word, huh? I'll give you the final word to conclude everything.
No, I think today's forum is wonderful because we have, Jacqueline and Terry who were born here, and then Diane, Kitty, the others who came here as a young child, and then you and me and Eric are the kind of the immigrant generation. I think we should have more forums where, even amongst ourselves, it is a multi-generational discussion. It's great. I think she's saying is right because there's a lot of things that our generation has to change too, not just them.
我都覺得呢個咁嘅討論咧係好有意思，因為當我諗呢個題目嘅時候咧，我唔知道原來咧可以好豐富嘅，而且我哋仲可以繼續落去嘅。咁而家就係今日咧，大家我哋恭祝各位新年快樂。呢個節目到呢度為止啦。我哋希望呢個咁嘅好有意義嘅繼續嘅呢個咁嘅討論咧，能夠喺我哋網上電視咧繼續討論落去。多謝大家收睇，多謝。